Dr. Martin, you won't believe where we are sleeping tonight after a very, very hard day's work at the cemetery where the missionary Sandrock lies in Bloemfontein. We are sleeping over at a monument, but also a graveyard here at Springfontein. Now, Springfontein from Johannesburg is about 500 odd kilometers, so it's far out. But the reason why I want to start this documentary is at the back is where you will see the names of 37 babies. Now, I have to go back as a cameraman where it all started. About 15 years ago, I did a documentary series about the Boer women and children concentration camps in South Africa. Now, in 1900, the British came to South Africa, 450,000 of them, to fight the Boers. After they have signed a treaty in the first Anglo-Boer War that they will never ever interfere with the two provinces, namely the Transvaal and the Orange Free State. Now, this is in the Orange Free State. It's a vast area, and it was very, very hot. This year we have a shortage of rain. So, the day when I came to Springfontein, I didn't know about this monument. I didn't know about, you know, all the different places where the concentration camp was. My studies went along with Emily Hoppias that came to visit the missionary Sandrock, not far from where I am now. I'll show you the house just now. It's called the Bome, in other words, trees. And on many writings in this book about the concentration camps, Emily Hoppias mentioned, and him, Sandrock self, said when they are on the stoep or the veranda, they could overlook the concentration camps. Now, here in Springfontein, there were over 3,000 Boer women and children. So the day when we arrived here, it was in the winter time. I did many of the shoots in the winter. It's just beautiful, and it gives you that remorse of, you know, the killings that happened in 142 concentration camps in South Africa by the British. So we slept over at the guest house, and in this guest house there was a book lying on the table, And it was written by a farmer not far from here, Blackie de Swart. And this book, the name is 963 Days at the Junction. Now, the railway line is not far from here. So, if you go to Port Elizabeth, you board the train in Johannesburg, then you go to Kroonstad, then Bloemfontein, Springfontein, and then you go down to the coast. Now, the coast from here is also about 300 odd kilometers. Anyway, I then saw this book, and I was very curious of what is it about. Now, Blackie de Swart did an entry, a day-to-day occurrence, what happened here at Springfontein. So I asked the owner of the guest house, yes, is there any chance that I can meet Blackie de Swart, Blackie de Swart. And he said, yeah, and he phoned him. And Blackie made arrangements to see me at the main concentration camps, which is about 2 kilometers from here. So the morning when we arrived there, it was also very overcast and cold, etc. He told me a lot of things about the concentration camps, because obviously being a farmer in this area, he knows a lot. And after that, he showed me various places and where the actual site was from the concentration camp. If I stand here right now, I can overlook where the concentration camp was. And then he brought me to this monument. Now, this monument, right at the back of me, there are 37 graves. So, when I was standing here, I had a very, I can't explain the feeling of why is there only babies buried in this cemetery. So, when I started to do my investigation, after I completed a documentary series of 55 different Boer women and children concentration camps, I planned to go to St. Helena. St. Helena had over 6,000 Boer prisoners of war and over 500 Boer children beneath the ages of 15 years. So at Bloemfontein, where the Boer Women Memorial is, there was a lady working there called Elria Wessels. Unfortunately, she passed away. And I have asked if there's anybody that can assist us with accommodation on the island, 3,000 kilometers from Cape Town. And then I'm sure she saw the ad, and then she contacted me and said, Rudy, you must please come and visit. I have over 900 photos to give you. Now, all those photos is not just of the prisoners of war, but also about the concentration camp. So I went to visit her. Her last place where she stayed was called Wolmaranstad. Now, Wolmaranstad is about 2.5 hours drive from Johannesburg. I had my camera with me because there was something else I wanted to ask her. And during our conversation with her, it came to where I have asked her, Elria, tell me. Now, Elria worked 30 years at the Boer Memorial, Women's Memorial. She's got a master's degree in history. So she's a very clever lady. And I then asked her, it just crossed my mind, Elria, tell me, those graves of the babies at Springfontein, are those the graves of the babies of Boer women that was raped by the British soldiers during the Second Anglo-Boer War? And she confessed. Now, this documentary in my interview with her is about an hour long. So after that, I went to St. Helena. When I came back, just before that, there was a very well-known professor. I'm not going to mention his name now. I did another documentary about, we had a prophet in the Boer family. Not my family, but in the Boer nation. The Boerevolk. Called Siener van Rensburg. So one day this professor contacted me and he said, listen, can't we do just a documentary about this Boer prophet? And a lot of his prophecies are now, you know, going to fulfillment. So after, you know, all the camera work, etc., he gave me a book. And this book, there was a person working for General Hertzog. Now, he was one of the Boer generals. And this person, his name is Clasie Havenga. Now, Clasie Havenga was the secretary for this General Hertzog. So when the war ended, the Second Anglo-Boer War, he then said to Clasie Havenga, he's also buried not far from here at Forrie Smith. You know, we must get these Boer women that were raped by the British, and you see that you get the affidavits. So Clasie did that. Then after Clasie got hold of all those affidavits, then this General Hertzog said, no, you know, this is not for the public eye. Take these affidavits and then put it in a file and bury it. Well, it was put away for 123 years. So you can imagine if a woman was raped and she's got to tell a person who she only met now of her ordeal. The motivation for her to go and do this must have been tremendous. And also, giving this affidavits, this woman, all the Boer women and their daughters that were raped by the British soldiers, you know, maybe thought that whoever raped them will now be court-martialed and they will be shot or whatever the case may be. So for 123 years, these written affidavits were then put in a file and it was locked away. And during this documentary I was making for this professor, he gave me a book. So what happened in 1981? This book was now been put in the open. And 35% of Boer women was raped by those British soldiers because the Boers were in war fighting them. They stayed behind on the farms, looking after the farm, etc. So very few could defend themselves. So it was an open season for these British soldiers. So what happened, he gave me a book. So he went into the archives and he got this Clasie Havenga file. Now you can imagine they spoke Dutch during that time. And he then translated into Afrikaans. And he said, I must do something about this. Well, after I came back from St. Helena doing that documentary, I rediscovered this book that was given to me. And I was going through all my documentary DVDs and I got to the one of Springfontein. And I remembered, but I did an interview with Elria Wessels. So I then started to investigate what was really happening here at Springfontein. The graves behind this wall. When we die as a Boer folk, you are put into a graveyard with your feet looking to the east and your head to the west. All these graves are in a 45 angle. Why? That's my first question. Why? Where I am standing from here to the big cemetery is about 2 kilometers. Unfortunately, it's very dilapidated. You know, it's difficult to drive there, etc. With a bakkie or with a 4x4 vehicle, you can go there. So then I went back to this professor books because he wrote about 180 books. And I opened the books and I started to read about Springfontein. And in 2 of his books, Vroue Smarte, Women's Sorrows and Springfontein, he said that missionary Sandrock, now he arrived in South Africa in 1875. He came to Springfontein in 1898. He was here at Springfontein till 1915. Now you can imagine, here's this missionary coming to an unknown part of South Africa. There's a war, so it must have been a hell of a time. So I read this professor book, and it doesn't make sense, because according to his books, he said that Sandrock that stayed at the Bome, I'll show you a picture now. Sandrock said, now he had nothing to do with the concentration camp. This was like a Bob fenced off concentration camp, and it was guarded by the British. That if he goes to the concentration camp the following day and a Boer woman gave birth and the baby died, that baby is going to hell. So even in this small booklet about Springfontein, now unfortunately Elria Wessels died. She's no longer with us, but she left me a legacy which I will remember for always. So I then phoned this professor and I said, but you know, something is not making sense. And also according to him, that Sandrock was only here at Springfontein for 3 months. Now it is impossible, if you look at the dates, when these children, these babies died. One baby died in January and the other one died in August. That he was only here at Springfontein for 3 months. It's a lie. So then I started to investigate what's going on. Now, corresponding with this professor, I said to him, I don't agree with your writings. Please, you know, tell me the truth, what really happens here. And obvious, I'm not a professor, so he got upset. And we chatted back and front and chatted back and front. And then he came to a conclusion, and he said that you can't believe everything that Elria Wessels say because she had dementia. He was on the board of the Boer Women and Children Memorial here in Bloemfontein for 4 years. In his conversation, he also said that she had dementia. She wasn't in a full positive way, and I totally disagree, because if you look at my interview with Elria Wessels, I'm not a medical doctor, but for sure there's nothing wrong with this lady whatsoever, because she confessed on camera. Working 30 years at the Boer Memorial, getting to very sensitive files, etc., she confessed that she had the file, and these babies that are buried here at Springfontein are the Boer women that were raped by the British, which make totally sense for me. And I tell you why. Because there's only babies buried here. But if you go to the main cemetery, you will find a lot of Boer babies buried with the same ages as what is written on this board. And the only conclusion I have is that they are telling lies. They brought Sandrock in disrepute because of, I don't know if they get paid by the British to lie about these babies here. A friend of mine, you have spoken to Ernest a couple of times. So a couple of, Ernest then started his own investigation. So what also happened, there's like a storm coming. I just want to move the camera. I'll stay here for a while until I have to move this. But I then phoned the bishop in Cape Town. And I then asked him, Bishop, tell me. So this professor said that the Lutheran Church are now following the Roman Catholic ways and learnings, etc. I then started to do my investigation, and I found the bishop in Cape Town, and I said, but just tell me, is there any chance that you follow the Roman Catholics? And I told him why I asked these questions, and then he put us in contact with you, Martin. So Ernest then contacted you. Thank you so much for sending us his diary. Then Ernest went on and he discovered a 12-page documentary that was written by a Professor Dolf Brits, also at some section of the university here in Bloemfontein. Now, I've gone through it a couple of times, and there's nothing, Martin, nothing that could say anything to offense Sandrock with the good work he did here in Springfontein. So I was going through all the papers and stuff. I believe that God, I don't know who put that paper there. And in this piece of paper, there was a telephone number of a lady at the University of Unisa in Pretoria. So Ernest sent her an email, and a couple of weeks went by, and then he received an email, and she said, there's documents of Sandrock at the University of Unisa. We were so surprised. We went to Pretoria, which is about 60 kilometers from where we stay. And guess what have we found? Because we tried to unriddle the diary, but the German is written in a very, very strange way that we couldn't get anybody to tell us, you know, what was written, what did Sandrock write there. But in this box at the University of Unisa, we find his diary written in his own hands. And his daughter took that diary of her father, and then she translated it. There's 3 books of about 100 pages plus. She then translated that difficult German language into a more understandable language. But we were very curious of what was written from when he arrived here in 1889 till 1915 about these babies that are buried here at the back. According to this professor, he said, but he's got letters written by the Boer women in this concentration camp. There were 3,000 of them with children in this huge concentration camp, where they said, but that is what Sandrock did. When he arrived in the concentration camp and the women gave birth and the baby died, that baby is going to hell, and that baby is not supposed to be buried here at the back. It is totally untrue. I said to this professor, I will make this known because you lie. You are making a person who worked for God under very difficult circumstances. You're accusing him of a deed he never did. And then guess what? He blocked me. So, there's another Dr. Johan van Zyl. I will mention his name. Now, myself and Ernest went to visit him, and we asked him, Doctor, tell us, what do you know about Sandrock? And he said, for my doctor's degree, I took the concentration camps of Springfontein. But Thule is also about 100 or 80 kilometers from here. And Norwelspont is also, say, 60 kilometers from here. And he could not find anything bad that SANDROC did here in Springfontein. He wonders, where did this professor get his information? So, myself and a couple of veterans, right here at the back, there's a space. We are going to put a plate right here where it says that the accusations done to missionary Christoph SANDROC is totally false. I have told this professor, if you don't give me the proof, I will make this public, because 38,000 Boer women and children died in these concentration camps. And there's only reason what I can think of why they're putting the blame on SANDROC. And that is the British pay them to keep quiet of the brutality. There's a very well-known book written in English, When is a War Not a War? When it is marked by barbarism. They were barbaric, killing innocent women and children. They could not win the Boers on the battlefield. And then they went to the farms and they brought them to 142 concentration camps in South Africa. My friends, the war veterans that came to help us, Lucas Klopper and Ludwig Meiberg, some of the others could not make it for some emergency reasons. It was terrible hot today in Bloemfontein, about 35 degrees. At some stage, at the age of 62, it's not a joke anymore to run around in this heat. And it was such an honor. And thank you so much, putting the trust into us to make his grave like new. Those two books written by these professors making these accusations are mentioned on this. We're just waiting for the plate where we're going to put it right here by the names. His famous words, this professor said, yeah, if you can prove the court, obvious it makes sense, you have the evidence that whatever they accuse you of, you have the evidence. No court can find you guilty. For 7 months now, no letters from this professor whatsoever. 3 of the staff at the Boer War Memorial also said, yeah, you can't believe what Elria Wessel said. I said, but that's so bad. She was one of your colleagues. To turn around now because she confessed on camera that she had the files, that these 37 babies are the babies that were raped. That these are the babies of the Boer women that got raped on the farms. Maybe this is just a thought. If I was a missionary or a preacher in conditions like that, many of these babies they took a cloth and they put it over the baby's face and they smothered these babies. What woman that was raped want to take this baby and look after that in a condition in a concentration camp? I doubt it. No woman will want to see that baby. Yeah, it is sad, but it's got a happy ending. I will stand fast in my belief as a Christian. If this case must ever go any further, which I doubt, the Bible says the truth will set you free. And this is what we aimed at. with all the evidence. We looked at the writing of Sandrock's daughter from 1889 to 1915. Nothing was ever mentioned about any of these wrongdoings here at the back. It is just a thought that maybe it's logical. Say for instance, he went to the concentration camp the next day. As I said, what woman, after she was raped, would like to look after this baby when this baby is born? Maybe they have put this baby just somewhere in the concentration camp, and out of compassion, he took that baby and he buried them here. 45 degrees. Does it make sense? It's quite an accusation to make that he took that baby almost a kilometer from here to the concentration camp and he buried them here at the back. The only conclusion I can make is that they tried to cover up the brutality and the rapes of the British. This professor was on the board of the Boer Memorial here in Bloemfontein. Why didn't he mention at any time about the Klasie Havenga documents? Why? He just kept quiet. Why taking a hell of a thought of now blaming Sandrock instead of blaming the British for the deeds they've done? I do understand it's 123 years after the Anglo-Boer War. But it is sad for a Boer like me and my Boer folk. If you ever come to a Boer women and children concentration camp and you looked at all those babies, how they died like flies. And the cruel deed done to Sandrock, accusing him of a deed he never did. Once we put up the plate, I will then send you the DVD and you will see for yourself. It's written in Afrikaans, which is very close to German, and in English. So whoever visit this children's memorial will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. We came all the way after we have cleaned up Sandrock's grave, wanted to come and show these veterans, and then when we receive the plate, we will then come back to Springfontein and we will erect it here right at the back. So whoever visit the graves, they will see the truth. And I say, yeah, anybody can take a hammer and damage it or whatever, but I believe God will keep his hand over this so that the truth will set you free. God was also innocent. He was found guilty. He had no sin, and he hanged on a cross. This is the cross. But luckily now Sandrock is not on that cross anymore. If they can't give me any proof, this is the proof that people will see when they visit it. Dr. Martin, thank you so much. Boerevriende, ek gaan net die kamera so draai. Ek wil net hierdie nou wat 'n ongelooflike voorreg om vandag presies toe die Tweede Vryheidsoorlog verklaar was deur die Britte, deur Paul Kruger, om te sê hy verklaar oorlog teen die Britte. Nou die hele aangeleentheid wat gaan oor die beweringe wat deur die Vroue Monument gemaak word in Bloemfontein, wat nie vir ons die bewyse kan gee, 7 maande nou al, is nou al in Oktober 2023, sowel as in die boeke van professor Andries Raad, dat daar beweer word dat die sendeling van die Lutherse kerk, naamlik eerwaarde Sandrock, die bewering is dat die 3000 boervroue en kinders wat in die konsentrasiekamp was op Springfontein, as hy die volgende dag die konsentrasiekamp besoek het, en dit was loopafstand van sy huis af, hy het by De Bome gebly op Springfontein, die huis bestaan vandag nog, ek sal een of ander tyd dit weer gaan afneem, en die boerevrou of die jong meisie het geboorte geskenk aan 'n baba, en die baba het om een of ander manier, of een of ander rede doodgegaan, dat daardie kind nie in die Hoofkampkerkhof begrawe mag word nie, want soos daar nou gesê word in hierdie boeke, dat die Lutherse kerk die Romeinse katekismus nagevolg het, wat onwaar is, omdat ons die bewyse het uit Duitsland uit, nog nooit in die bestaan van die Lutherse kerk was daar so iets gewees nie, en dat daai kind hel toe gaan. Dit is waarom die 37 babas eenkant begrawe is. Op een of ander onverklaarbare wyse, weet ek nie hoe nie, het my vriend wat hier by my sit, ek het in my dokumentasie gekry, want mens wil tog sekerlik feitelik reg wees, het ek 'n brief gekry, weet nie waar kom dit vandaan nie, dat die Universiteit van Unisa in besit is van, hier is ons 1, 2, 3, 4 boeke oor eerwaarde Sandrock. Kan julle dit glo? Ek glo nie aan toeval nie. Ek wil net vir julle wys.
Tia, sy dogter wat die gebeur.
Nou, sy dogter Tia, hierso is die bewys, Tia Sandrock van 204 Avignon Vlokstraat, Sunnyside in Pretoria, het hierdie, ek glo aan die Universiteit van Unisa geskenk, die Hesse Collection of the German Cultural Contribution in South Africa. Nou, ek neem aan, sy sê hierso, dit was haar oupa gewees, met die brief, dan is hier nou nog 'n handgeskrewe, ek kan net daai knippie afval. Dis die een brief, so lyk dit. Dan is hier 'n handgeskrewe, Sondag die 29ste Augustus 1875. Ek moet nou eintlik handskoene aan hê om dit so te hanteer, maar die dame, hulle was verskriklik behulpsaam. Ek moet sê, ek haal my hoed af, baie dankie. Unisa en die personeel, ek gaan nou sy naam weer kry. Maar hierso is nou bewyse van dit. Dan is hierso Christoph Sandrock 1865 tot 1930 Berlyn se missie van 1892 tot 1894 volume 2 handgeskreef met die hand geskryf deur die dogter. So met ander woorde, sy het haar pa, die boek lê hierso, jy kan nie daai Duits lees nie. Sy hele dagboek oorgeskryf in haar handskrif. Kyk hoe pragtig het sy geskryf, 23ste Oktober, 19 Oktober, presies soos wat haar pa nou sy aantekeninge in hierdie rooi dagboek gemaak het. Dis die ander bladsy, die ander dagboek. Dan is hier nou nog, in die ou dae het ons hierdie boeke geken as 'n bloemlesing. Van die 29ste van die 8ste 1875 toe Sandrock in Suid-Afrika aangekom het, tot die 6de Maart 1892. Hierdie is volume 1. Die vriend wat hierso werk het dit gou gaan maak, die afskrif gaan maak. Maar dit is nou, ek kan nou net vir julle wys hier voor. Hierso staan 29 Augustus 1875. Kyk net daai mooi handskrif. Is dit ook deur sy dogter gedoen hierdie? Dis is deur sy dogter vertaal in 'n betere leesbare handskrif. Nou, baie van ons ken die Hollandse State Bybels. Ek kan dit in elk geval glad nie lees nie. Ek kan wel Hollands lees en ek kan Hollands verstaan. Maar hierdie boek wat ek nou vir julle gaan wys, jy kan glad nie uitmaak met sy handskrif, Sandrock se eie handskrif, wat het hy daar geskryf nie. Maar hier in die argiewe, hier in by Unisa, soos julle sê, ons het nie ons werk gedoen nie, neef Ernest, weer eens, baie dankie, hy is eintlik 'n boere speerder, om die waarheid by ons mense uit te kry, oor die leuns wat daar vertel word deur hierdie godvreesende man Sandrock. Nou, so lyk sy dagboek. Nou, ek is seker julle sal verstaan. Kyk daai handskrif. Ek weet nie of daar nog enige nasate van Sandrock in Suid-Afrika is nie. As daar is, asseblief, kom in kontak met my. Ek wil net vir julle sê, verskriklik dankie dat hierdie vir ons so mooi bewaar is. Nou wil ek net vir julle net gou hierso wys. Daar is die leer transkripsie en dis die leernommer of die houer waarin hierdie boeke gebeere word. So nou wil ek nou net vir julle wys 'n bietjie nader. Hoe lyk hierdie? Kan nie daai net terugsit in as. So daar is dit nou net so sit. Dis hoe hierdie. Daar so staan 1894. En kyk net daai skrif. Net so vorentoe blaai. Ek kyk of daar enige iets daar so staan. Christoph Sandrock, Berlynse missionary. Daar is natuurlik al sy aantekeninge, seker maar die bladsye of die opskrifte van sekere hoofstukke. Kyk net hierdie bladsye. Dit is verskriklik. Ek meen dis 123. Nee, dis oor die 200 jaar oud. Hierdie boek. Soos julle nou net daar kan kyk. 1896. Dis ongelooflik. Dit is sy boek.
Dis daai wat sy daar oorgeskryf.
En dan het sy nou hierdie boek, sy dogter,
Daai.
is nou in hierdie boek oorgeskryf. Van 1875. Matteus 25 vers 14 tot 30. Nou, die persoon wat in die argiewe werk in Duitsland, het vir ons gesê, dat enige iets, en dis nou wat in professor Raad se boeke staan, onwaar is, want hulle glo ook, soos wat in Matteus en Lukas staan, dat daardie kind geen sonde het nie. Maar dit is nou haar handskrif. Presies het daai boekie uit, die 1 Desember 1875, 1876, 1883. So ons is nou, die ander boek gaan ek nou vir julle wys. Hier is volume 2, ook sy dogter, wat hy geskryf het van 1892. So is nie 'n storie van ons suig hierdie goed uit ons duim uit nie. Ons wil graag die bewyse gee dat dit alles leuns is, dat daai 37 babas, die babas was van die vrouens die vrug van verkrachting. Ok, hier is nou iets anders te oor is hier in die agterkant, dit is nog op. aantekeninge van haar wat sy gemaak het. En hier is ook nog aantekeninge in haar eie handskrif van haar oupa. Of is dit haar oupa of haar oupa, ja. Dis en ek hierso staan, dis wat ek vir julle wil gewys het. Here's a collection of the German cultural contribution. Thank you very much indeed for the additional section of your grandfather diary. Dit is die professor J. Willemse wat vir haar sê, baie dankie vir, ek neem aan sy hierdie boeke geskenk aan Unisa. Ja, in 1983.
In die stad gewees. En hulle het nou geskuif Irene toe. So ja, maar daar is ons fantasties.
Gaan jy daar onder deur die brug?
Een van die Nelmapie is
Ja.
van die R21 af en dan draai jy regs by die robot. En dan, maar ek sal vir julle, ek sal die kontakdetails vir die mense vir julle.
So Dr. Martin, we've just arrived in a very, very hot South Africa. There's all the stuff and tools that we need to use to fix the grave, to make it better. Now this is all to blame on the municipality of Bloemfontein. You have never seen such a filthy and neglected cemetery in your life. I don't have the words to express what you see here in Bloemfontein. This is just one small part of the cemetery, just one very small part. But it's extremely hot today. I think it will go up to 35 degrees. I'm not too sure what do they call it in Fahrenheit. But the last time the camera was here, you could hardly see Sandrock's grave. And now we're busy just to clean the grass on top of it. Two of my lovely, wonderful friends, military veterans. So, I'm sure it's 123 years that his grave and the honor that he deserves will now, be fixed, and it will look very, very nice. This is my friend Ludwig, busy here, engineer at one of the very big Swiss companies, doing his job because we believe in the innocence of this man Sandrock. This is my other friend Lucas. This is my friend Lucas, also doing a wonderful military veteran, helping to give honor to this man that was so accused of what happened at Springfontein. Here you can see this is now in Afrikaans from a grateful community from Springfontein, van 'n dankbare gemeente by Springfontein. And my question is, if he was so cruel, why would the community of Springfontein thank him for the evil deeds that he is now accused of? It's a shameful affair. Wat ons kan doen is, ons moet grond vat, en grond net bietjie hierbo gooi om hom op te lig, want dit gaan geweldig baie sement vat. Ja. But just to show you what it looks like. Busy there with the lawnmower, with the weed eater, just to give us some space so that we can work here and put up a gazebo, just, you know, to have a bit of coolness in the air. Ons op net te lank in die warm son staan, hoor.
Ja.
Dis hoorlik vir die camera.
There you can see Rudy, and we have put up this shade gazebo. Rudy, die boodskap.
Martin, for the viewers, this is not out of disrespect. I'm standing here on the grave with the years and the rain and the nature. There's a hole right there, so we just want to cover it up, you know, on that side. I wonder what would Sadrock say if he was here today, remembering him after 123 years for the good deeds he did. It's just a thought.
And here's Petrus. Say hello.
Ja.
Kom ons poseer met ons Lucas met ons wapens.
Ja.
Nie te besig en ek met my
Ja.
pak.
Is nog bezig?
Nee, papa. Dis wapen.
Okay, as julle iets in Engels wil sê vir my, asseblief.
I'm of German, also of German and Boer origin, and this is my contribute to my German family. I'm Ludwig Ernst Meiberg, and my grandmother Meiberg, my surname is Krause with a K. And yeah, our Boers and our German family came a long way together.
Lucas?
My name is Lucas Klopper. I'm a Boer, and this is my contribution to Sandrock for the good work that is done in the Springfontein, and also among the other rebels that were in the veld, that he ministered to them, and was a contact between them and God when they had a difficult time. So this is just a small contribution of gratitude for what is done for our people.
Is it hot today?
Yeah.
Quite hot.
Ek wil gou iets nog sê. What I also can say, as Lucas have said, Sandrock have also worked amongst the Boer commandos, and he was loved by the Boers in the field. And he was, as Lucas and Rudy have said, have also worked at the in the concentration camps at Springfontein, and he was also loved by the Boer women and children there. So yeah, his memory lives on, and yeah, hopefully we can restore his name and honor and dignity for what they have done.
Dankie.
Yes,
Now, that flag, Martin, got nothing to do with extremist whatsoever. That flag belonged to the Boers, our people that fought against the British during the Anglo-Boer War. So if you ever see this flag, the colors of that flag has a very purposeful meaning. The green on the flag is, if you ever visited Natal, Durban, etc., there's a word that says, yeah, green, Valley of 1,000 Hills, green is the Valley of Natal. That represents the greenness of the country and of the nature. The blue is our beautiful blue skies here in South Africa. This year in winter time, in other places it snows, but also here in the Free State. We're 400 kilometers away from home, but most of the time we have beautiful blue skies. So the blue represents, you know, the blue skies. The white represents the pureness of God. There is no sin in God, and this is the truth about Sandrock. Although we are human and we make mistakes and we sin, God was innocent. He was accused of things he never did, and that is why he was crucified. So the white represents the pureness of God, and the red means the blood of Jesus Christ. So for the Boer people, this is a very, very meaningful flag. Wherever we go, it's now close to the 16th of December. It will be the day of the vow. It is when the Boers that did not wanted to stand under British rule in the Cape Province moved away to other places in the Free State and Transvaal, etc. And so the red is the blood, and on the day of the vow we display this flag because to the Boer people it means a lot. Iemand 'n foto geneem met telefone. Kan jy?
Daar 'n foto neem.
Ja, asseblief.
Okay. Kyk hoe mooi wapper die vierkle nou. Goeiemiddag boervolk, dit is Ludwig het praat. Ons boervolk se vryheid wink vir ons. Toe Karika hierdie pragtige lied gesing het, ons Transvaalse volkslied. Toe die wind opgekom en het ons vierkleer so gewapper, so asof dit 'n bevestiging is van dit wat ons siener van Rensburg gesê het. Terwille van ons Duitse vriende, wil ek net in my gebroke Engels herhaal. Our freedom, just as Sir Nicolaas van Rensburg have said, is blinking for us. He have said that our Boers will once again gain our republics and our freedom, our Boer republics, which is still legally ours.
Kom maar aan van.
Ja, my vriend. Net so 5 minute net wat ek sê.
Nee, reg, asseblief. Ek het nou weer 'n bietjie energie, laat ek nou weer insit terwyl ek energie het. Dis my batterye pap is as jy weer gecharge.
Ja. Ek kan nie geweet vandag. Dit wag op ons.
Sorry.
Nee, wat hy is in elk geval moerke.
Yes, perfect.
Weet jy wat nee, my vriend? Vat sommer daai besem nee. Gooi hom uit, gooi hom weg. Vat daai besem nee, dan vee jy daai met die besem.
Wat jy?
Daai sement. Ons kan die besem net weer na die tyd afspoel. Ja, maar jy moet eers die sement insit. Dan sit jy die water. Want anders die water hy loop uit daaronder. Dink jy ons gaan nog een sement nodig hê?
Ons sal definitief nog nodig hê, weet nie genoeg nie. As jy hom slap kan maak, dan werk hy beter. En dan gaan hy mooi, dan loop hy mooi.
Ek gaan nou ja kom help ons. Ja.
Dan moet hom maar redelik hard druk. Dus jy my aangee, dan kan
Hoe
ek
is
hierdie
daai taalsement? Sit jy 'n bietjie water op.
Ons het gedink, hierdie is sommer so 2 ure.
Ja, vanaf 2 ure my vriend. Plus die ander 5.
Ja,
Nie die ander 5 vergeet, die onbeplande 5.
ja, dis altyd so.
Dankie my vriend. Dit maak dit so goed.
So Dr. Martin, here we're doing the final touch up of the grave. It seems like the grave is split into 2, and on the other side there's no tombstone. So we're just going to put a slush mixture.
Kijk, hierdie vat aan.
So the grave is split. So here only lies missionary Christoph Sandrock and his wife. So on the other side we're just going to put a mixture of tile cement and house cement. It will last a very long time. I cannot say in years how many years, but it will last a long time. And what we did is we first cleaned the grave on the top, and then after that we have very strong weed poison which we sprayed on the grave and around the grave to prevent weed for a very long time, 6 months to a year. Nothing will grow here. But it seems like here on the spot there's a lot of German people buried.
En ek gaan iets sê nie
Ja,
vir hom.
Martin.
Martin, wie gets there? You see, here are white stones, eh? And it's a symbol of Christoph Sandrock's pureness. It's a symbol of his life. His life was white, pure.
But I'm sure you will understand. We all have sin. And I'm sure he also had sin. But what happens here, and with Christoph Sandrock being accused, where we have all the evidence that it's not true. Meneer Ludwig, is die chef vanaand? Is hulle al gaar?
Van dit amper klaar.
Julle rolletjies gekry?
Nee, nog nie gekry nie.
Hoekom nie?
Want dit draai nog nie weg.
Ja.
Wat vra jy?
Nee. Wat nie op jy? Nee.
Ek klop van my slaai in.
Ja. Maak 'n dag oop vanaand hierso.
Dit is 'n lekker soep.
Wat sê Dagwood?
Dagwood.
Ja.
Dis eier en 'n patty en alles.
Ja. Alles gemeng.
Bacon, vleis.
Dit is 'n wimpie. Breakfast op brood.
Ja.
Jy kry kaas op dit. Hy drie snytjies brood.
Koffie was.
Moet jy koffie gemaak?
Ja, heel bokken. Ach, met water.
Ja.
So what concerned me a lot is all these babies are buried in a 45-degree angle. It's the first time visiting 55 Boer women and children concentration camps in South Africa. It's the first time that I've ever seen something like this. So the truth will set you free.